election. Mr. Agbakuba and Festus Okoye joins us after the break.
Breakfast gets you up to a great day. How do I know? Because my daddy goes through his work feeling good and always with a smile. Mommy is all new things becomes absolute fun. That's because all day and every day the peak goes on.
Start your day with a Peak Protein Breakfast. Peak. Reach for your peak.
What's starting without a partner you can trust for great finishing? It's one less thing to worry about when you let EVI Venici handle all your paints and coating concerns. At EVI Venici, we specialize in researching and developing a broad range of superior non-toxic products. A subsidiary of RAR Holdings Group, our EVI factories around the world, including Dubai, Saudi Arabia and Italy, provide high-quality paint for the African market, ranking number 49 in the coating industry worldwide and number 1 in Africa and the Middle East. Walk into EVI Venici, Nigeria. Visit www.evenici.com or send an email to info@evinigeria.com. Be one step ahead with EVI Venici.
Good morning.
Good morning. Why is your sun shining like this?
Can't you see that Harmattan season is here? We need to protect our children from this dry weather.
What about the invisible germs?
Invisible germs?
During Harmattan, it's not enough to only protect your skin. You also need protection from these invisible germs. To protect our families, we use Dettol.
Harmattan season brings a lot of germs, but Dettol with germ defense gives protection from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's 32 days to the general elections and preparations are in top gear. The Independent National Electoral Commission has assured Nigerians that the elections will be free, fair and credible. And the electoral umpire says the compulsory use of the bimodal voter registration system, which is the BVAS, and the election results viewing portal, IREV, will ensure that all forms of electoral malpractices are checked. While many are commending INEC for its persistence on the use of technology in the elections, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Olisa Agbakuba, wants the Commission to make clarification on the criteria for winning a presidential election. In a letter addressed to INEC, the senior advocate is seeking clarification of Section 134 of the 1999 Constitution, which states that a candidate for an election to the office of president shall be deemed to have been duly elected, where there being only 2 candidates for the election. Subsection A he has the majority of votes cast at the election, and subsection B, he has not less than 1/4 of the votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Well, joining us via Zoom is INEC's National Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye. Also joining us via Zoom is Senior Advocate of Nigeria and former President of the Nigeria Bar Association, Dr. Olisa Agbakuba. Leonard Steele, good morning. Mr. Okoye, good morning to you as well.
Good morning.
All right, let me begin with you, Leonard Steele. There are a lot of questions are already beginning to come up in the minds of Nigerians that why didn't you go to the courts if you're seeking interpretation to this matter?
No, I'm not seeking interpretation to the matter. I just wanted clarification. I have to first commend my brother there, Festus, for doing a great job projecting the INEC, and I believe that from all I've heard and read that INEC is set to deliver free, fair, credible, and transparent elections. But just so that it's clear, and I'm sure that Festus will help us clear it up. So just that it's clear, because, you know, we lawyers can do interpretations. I'm a bit concerned about the use of the word "and." So my point would be, does "and" mean that the FCT votes are incorporated in the 36 states, or they are separate? That's all I'm asking. I don't think that it's for INEC to be blamed about the construction of words in the Constitution. Just for clarity, so everybody knows beforehand, is it that FCT stands separate, so that if I was a presidential candidate and I won 100% of the votes in 36 states, but 0 in FCT, what would be the position? So that everybody, both the people going to take part in the elections and those voting, will be very clear what is the situation.
Right. Mr. Koye, I'm sure you have heard Leonard Silk and might want to respond to this matter, clarifying the stance of INEC.
We say that for you to be declared as having been duly elected as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you must score the highest number of votes cast in the election, and also a quarter of the votes cast in 2/3 of all the states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. I fully understand that particular provision. Now, the issue is that this provision has always been there in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and we have conducted different elections using the same constitutive electoral framework. Now, I'm very, very reluctant in joining this debate. I'm reluctant because if you look at Part 1 of the third schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Constitution itself names the chairman of the commission as the Chief Electoral Commissioner for the Federation. Now, if you also look at Section 25 of the Electoral Act, it names the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission as the returning officer for the presidential election. So, what that means is that the power and the right to make a determination relating to the import or the purport of Section 134, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has been reserved exclusively for the Chief Returning Officer of the Federation, who in this particular instance is the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And so I believe that since the makers or the framers of the Constitution have given him this particular power, it is left for him to exercise this particular power. It is when he needs our own input as members of the commission that we give him the input. But ultimately, he takes full responsibility for his own determination and for his own understanding of the import or purport of Section 134 of the Constitution. And the law says that if he makes his own interpretation or if he makes his own clarification and he doesn't make it well, the law courts are there to further give us the proper interpretation of the import of Section 134. So I think that I will be usurping the powers and the functions exclusively reserved for the chairman of the commission by giving an opinion relating to Section 134 of the Constitution.
Silk, you are very explicit in your analysis of that Section 134. Some people will say it's quibbling. Festus Okoye has just said that it has always been there. But we run the risk this time. We have always run the risk, it seems. But we have not gotten into that position because maybe people have been getting the required one. Those who have been winning have been getting the required quarter of the votes in Abuja. But it's very clear, as you have stated, that the Constitution says you must get at least a quarter of the votes cast in 24 states. That's 2/3 of the 36 states. And Abuja, and you are concerned with the word "and," which means that Abuja also stands alone. So you can win the 24 states and lose Abuja and then lose the presidency.
Absolutely. But I take the point made by Festus. You know, it's a good point. It will be preempting the outcomes. So I can understand his reluctance. But as I said, mine was simply a concern to say what exactly. And you know, by the way, I haven't looked at it very carefully, but it seems to me that maybe this section relating to Abuja wasn't always applied. That's just what I think. But I take the point Festus makes that it will be very prejudicial to preempt the chief returning officer. And so my intent was just simply to say, what exactly is it? But since it says that that's something that, you know, will be preemptive, let's leave it at that and hope that the problem will not arise where Abuja becomes a big issue. You remember 12 to 3rd? Nobody ever thought about 12 to 3rd until the elections took place and Chief Richard Akinjele went to court and argued that you can split the state, which for me you can't. So let's just hope that when the time comes, somebody is going to get 24 plus Abuja. And I will also ask, since I have my brother Festus on the line, I will also use this opportunity to request that the framework of the rerun is carefully reviewed. I don't think it's straightforward. The clauses dealing with rerun of elections is not straightforward. But I'm not expecting Festus to say anything because obviously he's a concerned official of the INEC. But just to quietly have a look at that and to also see. Then the third point I'd like to make was the one that I had earlier made alongside my learned brother, Wole Oladipakun. And I would like to reverse myself. I was wrong when I said that Section 65 would usurp the powers of the court because I didn't actually look down to see Section 65, subsection 2. Yeah. So I'm grateful to Mike Igini. I watched him on Arise explain it, and I can see the sense in which INEC has as I don't know whether it's INEC or NAS, but whoever did it, it's a salutary, provision in the Constitution. So that the returning officer, you remember there was a returning officer in, I think, Owerri, who had a gun held to his head, and he announced the elections, and actually INEC withheld the certificate. But now there's a legal framework for INEC to do what it did in Owerri. And there's also the framework for the judges to conduct a judicial review. So I think that section is perfect, Section 65, subsection 2.
All right, Festus, let me come to you on this. For enlightenment purpose, one would say if there is a contest between two people and somebody wins, why don't you allow him win? But in this specification where there is the provision to say you have to win 1/4 of the votes in 2/3 majority of the states. So it means it takes us to the issue of spread. That is the necessary spread for anyone to get to it before you can be declared president. For enlightenment purpose, can you give us the reason why we need this kind of spread?
Members of the Constitution want a pan-Nigerian mandate. This because if you look at some of the states that are referred to as the vote basket of Nigeria, you can win the entire votes from Lagos State, win the entire votes from Kano, and also win the entire votes from Rivers and become the president of Nigeria without winning a single vote from all the other, without winning or getting votes from other states of the Federation. And so what the framers of the Constitution want is a situation where a president will campaign in all states of the Federation, where a president will not be a president duly elected on the basis of ethnicity or on the basis of religion, but a president who will traverse the length and breadth of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, scouting for votes, so that at the end of the day, no ethnic group, no religious group can own the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For me, that is the purport of that particular provision, for you to get a threshold in several states of the Federation. But as relates to the second point, which the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association made on the threshold for a run, or what the Constitution calls a second election, I think it is very clear. It says the Constitution is very clear that for you to become or for you to be deemed to have been duly elected, you must score the highest number of votes cast in the election, and you must also score a quarter of the votes cast in 2/3 of all the states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. And it says that in default, any of the candidates meeting this particular threshold, that there will be a second election, and that only 2 of the candidates are going to participate in this second election. 1, the candidate that got the highest number of votes, and 2, one amongst the remaining candidates, if I may use the layperson's language, who scores the highest spread in the highest number of states, will be the second candidate. And if there are 2 candidates that score majority, those who get that particular spread, then you take the candidate that scored the highest number of votes amongst those who got the spread. So I think that it is important, and also is very, very creative and innovative for us to begin to look at some of these dynamics, because there's a possibility that some of these dynamics will be at play during the election. And but I think that as a people and as a nation, we must have confidence in our electoral process. We must also have confidence in our judicial process, because I have noticed a tendency where the moment there's a constitutional challenge, we run to go and amend the constitution without allowing our democratic institutions to take control of the situation and then do the necessary interpretation requires to strengthen our democratic process. We panic
Mr.
and amend the constitution.
We need to quickly go on a commercial break. Quickly go on a commercial break, gentlemen. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Please stay with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Why is your sun shining like this?
Can't you see that Harmattan season is here? We need to protect our children from this dry weather.
What about the invisible germs?
Invisible germs?
During Harmattan, it's not enough to only protect your skin. You also need
protection from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now. Airtel, the smartphone network.
It's a new dawn for Nigeria. Oh, better days are coming. Better days that gives us hope and strength.
It's a new dawn in Nigeria. The firmament portents a bright future as the people of Nigeria move to vote a man whom they have come to trust. That man is Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. Vote Bola Tinubu as president of Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC.
Bring the smiles back to all Nigerians.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were speaking with Festus Okoye as well as Senior Advocate Olisa Agbakuba on the coming 2023 elections. And before we went on the break, Mr. Festus Okoye was speaking about having confidence in our democratic institutions and the fact that we often run, to amend constitution or the other. Senior Leonard Silk, I'm bringing this question to you now. Your concerns, is it a matter of not having confidence in the institution, or what really is your concern reflective of?
No, I have full, I said at the beginning, I have full confidence in what I've seen the institution, INEC. They've worked very hard, done everything I can see possible. The rest is left to the technical issues on the day with the with the transmission process work effectively. INEC cannot control that. But as I said, just to return to my point about clarity, because we don't want an election that goes straight to the electoral. What Festus has said, I find the constitutional framework for the runoff very tedious, very, very tedious. In fact, the first person who would be on the ballot for a rerun, the conditions are made subject to Section 134(2)(a). And if it is made subject to 134(2)(a), then why is there a rerun? Because 134(2)(a) sets out who wins. So these are just the small issues that I'm sure, even if Festus would not,
I asked this question because he had said that these provisions were already in the Constitution all the while, and we have been having a series of elections. So it's coming up now is the reason why I'm asking, is it a matter of not having confidence in the institution? What concerns you are having at this particular time? Are you thinking we should begin to look at a review of this provision?
No, we could do three things. First of all, it's got nothing to do with confidence in INEC because they didn't write the Constitution. Second of all, it's simply to, throw light on the subject. And even though Festus is not saying anything, which is understandable, I'm very sure when he leaves the studio, he will look at it again just to make sure that, everything is okay. We all want, on the day of the election, to have a winner who will proceed to Aso Rock on the 29th of May or 1st of June without rancor. That's all I'm doing, without rancor. So if that is possible, and if, from what INEC says, and I'll bow to the wisdom of INEC because they're the guys working the Constitution. So if they say, oh, no, there's no problem, don't worry. Don't worry, Lisa. We understand, we understand the technicalities of who wins the election, and if there's a rerun, we understand who are the guys who will come out. Then that's fair. That's all I'm raising. That's fair. I'm not trying to do anything other than just to say, let's have no friction. Let all the friction that are possible be reviewed now and resolved. So I'm satisfied with the explanation of Festus because he's a senior, member of INEC. So he's made clear, said, don't worry, everything's okay. We're abiding by the Constitution and we understand it. So there's no problem. Or as we say in Nigeria, there's no wahala. So I'm cool.
All right, Festus, let me come to you on this. Based on what the senior advocate is saying, Section 134, of course, has been there all the while, like you said, and it is within the purview of the returning officer, who is the INEC chairman, that has the authority to make the announcement based on all of the results that are collated. But it's enough for Nigerians to understand, because as it is right now, it's one thing for Nigerians to understand it, even though the Constitution is there. It's another thing for them not to understand. If they don't understand, and they seem to be misunderstanding or different kind of opinions regarding what that section says, it could lead to a situation where no one envisages. Do you think it's explicit enough?
When a particular provision of the Constitution is ambiguous, or when a particular provision of the Constitution is not clear, or when there is doubt relating to the intention of the lawmakers relating to a particular provision, the Constitution itself has provided a guide or a guideline on what to do. One, the Constitution has said that in terms of making a determination, a declaration, and a return during a presidential election, that it is the exclusive right and responsibility of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission to do that. Now, the Constitution has also said that if the chairman of the commission exercises the powers conferred on him, and there's doubt relating to his exercise of that particular power, or any individual feels that that particular power or right was not exercised in accordance with the Constitution, that the person can approach an election petition tribunal, in this case the Court of Appeal, to seek for a clarification or to seek for interpretation relating to that particular provision. But I'm saying, and the learned saying agrees with me, that we must allow the chief electoral commissioner of the country to exercise that particular power. If you look at section 65 of the Electoral Act, it's very clear. It says the decision of the returning officer shall be final on any question arising from or relating to declaration of scores of candidates and the return of a candidate. So it gives that power exclusively to the returning officer. And it did not give that power, it didn't say that the returning officer shall share that particular power with any individual. The only institution that the returning officer can share this power with are the courts. So if, for instance, the returning officer has not done what is right or interprets Section 134 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria wrongly, any of the candidates who feels shortchanged by that particular interpretation can approach the Court of Appeal in this instance in an election petition to seek for an interpretation that is consistent with the Constitution. That's exactly the point I'm making.
Well, it is very clear that the Section 134, I'm going back to Section 134 now, still use the expression, the word highest votes. In the case of highest, you only have more than two. You can't have highest when you have two candidates from basic English. I'm sure Agbakoba was very particular about the use of the word highest, and the one including Abuja as part of it. Looking at it, are we creating a room for any rogue lawyer to take advantage of, or is it not advisable that we go back to the drafting table and do it quickly before the elections take place, so that we do not leave any room for doubt?
No. If you look at Section 134, subsection 4, and subsection 2, I beg your pardon, and that's the section we are dealing with. For you to be deemed to have been duly elected, you must secure the highest number of votes cast at the election. That is one. You must get that. Secondly, you must also get a quarter of the votes cast in 2/3 of all the states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. So you must meet these two criteria. If more candidates meet these two criteria, then the second leg of the issue will kick in. That is when we have a second election. So I read in this, but I fully understand as a lawyer the concern of the learned former president of the Bar Association relating to the use of the word "and," whether "and" will be used disjunctively or conjunctively or otherwise. I fully understand it, but I believe that there's a possibility that the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, who has been given the exclusive right and the exclusive power to interpret this, to apply this particular provision, is listening. And at the end of the day, it is for him to apply the provisions of the Constitution the way he envisages it. And if he applies and doesn't apply it in the way other candidates understand it, the courts are there for them to seek a proper interpretation of that particular provision.
And then I think to follow up from him, it looks like INEC is trying to make us believe in the conscience of the Electoral Commission. But law is not about conscience, really. It's about the law.
Yes. Honestly, I understand Festus' position, but I disagree. I think the job of the electoral management body is to say these are the rules. So it's not necessarily the chair of INEC, who is also the chief returning officer of the presidential that is speaking. It's now INEC telling us, before you guys go in, the word "and" is conjunctive or disjunctive. I don't think that is going to interfere with the functions of the chief returning officer. And the other challenge I would like to pose is this to my good friend Festus. Are you suggesting that all past elections, the votes in Abuja have been taken into consideration? I don't think so. There are people who are sitting as presidents who got there without FCT votes counting, because we all keep talking about 36 states. So I will urge you, yes, I get the point you make about not wanting to preempt the chief returning officer. But the chief returning officer is not necessarily INEC. INEC is a lot bigger than that. So I would urge you to have INEC clarify the rules. There's not like clarity. People will say, okay, I'm running for president, and this is what INEC says are the guidelines. That's all I'm asking. Not that the chief returning officer himself, in that capacity, which will be sub judice, should do it. But we are entitled to know exactly what are the rules that will apply if you wish to be Nigerian president, so that there will be no confusion as to whether the word "and" incorporates FCT into the 36 states or does not incorporate it. And as you know, Festus, lawyers are extremely ingenious, and it will not be difficult to see a situation where someone goes to court on the basis that INEC has interpreted the word in his own view, in the view of the lawyer, wrongly. It's not impossible to have that, scenario. So rather than have that scenario, let's know what the rules are up front.
So, as I just a follow-up again, is it sufficient for INEC to say these are the rules? Because INEC is not the court. INEC is just an umpire. If INEC says these are the rules, yes. Whether it's conjunctive or disjunctive, which are the new levels of adjectives we are bringing to this election now.
Well, if INEC misdirects us, and I hope they won't, then obviously we can go to court. But right now, the rules have not been used. And since INEC already issues guidelines in a number of areas, what's the difficulty saying to be Nigerian president, the criteria is covered by Section 134, and this is what it is. Unless, of course, it is very clear. And what I assume from, what Festus is saying is that it is clear and that there's no problem. So if that is so, then fine. But I don't see the clarity, because I know that word "and." And then also, when I go to section, the part dealing with the second run, it's not as clear as Festus makes out. It's not as clear. It's that I just, speaking for myself, I just couldn't actually make clear sense of exactly who are the guys qualified to the rerun. So if that is clear to INEC, then I don't think we need to worry. The important point that I wanted to make is there are what I consider to be booby traps in the place of the forthcoming elections. But for such a senior person as Festus to say, don't worry, we have it under control, that satisfies me. As I said, my concern was just,
Okay, let me come to you, Mr. Okoye. The Leonard Silk mentioned something, incorporating, if the Federal Capital Territory has always been incorporated in previous elections. I would like for you to perhaps clarify how it has been in previous elections for us to better understand.
Making is that the amendments that the Constitution has gone through did not affect this particular section. The only section of the Constitution that was affected was the section relating to the number of days the Commission has to conduct a second election. Prior to this particular period, the number of I think it was 7 days, and then the National Assembly amended the Constitution and took the period to 21 days, given the fact that we have to carry out what we call reverse logistics and so on. But as you know, when we are preparing for a main election, the framers of the Constitution also obligates us to also prepare for a possible second election in case a winner does not emerge during the first election. But the point I'm making is that declarations have been made and returns have been made using the same stance alone, or whether it stands in conjunction with other states of the Federation, and whether when we are conducting election, whether we see the Federal Capital Territory as a state, or whether the Federal Capital Territory is slightly amorphous in terms of how we see it within the electoral trajectory. But the point, I have taken the point the Leonard Senior Advocate made, we will look at, we will take a second look at these provisions. We will advise ourselves properly on our own understanding of the provisions of the Constitution. One, relating to the condition for a second election, and also relating to the place of the FCT in the entire framework of making declarations. And if the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, who has been given the other responsibility of being the chief returning officer of the Federation, seeks for that guidance, seeks for that clarification, definitely we will make that clarification and make that particular and give him that guidance.
All right, Festus.
That's very good.
Okay. All right, Festus, let me stay with you on this. Of course, Nigerians are looking for, based on the deadlines for PVC collections that INEC has made, Nigerians are hopeful that, of course, the time frame given extra is good for them. But a lot of people still have the concern that 29th of January is not adequate for them to get all their PVCs. And we have heard reports of some people saying that some persons collecting PVCs on their behalf. We've heard different people saying they can't get the PVCs until certain times. You know, we've been hearing a lot of, and I believe you would have heard lots of several complaints from people's experiences in the process to collect PVCs. Please, can you make some clarification or give some level of assurance to Nigerians regarding all that is there within that?
If you recall, we devolved the collection to the 8,809 registration areas. So if we devolve to 8,809 registration areas, and there are problems in maybe 20 of those areas, the problem should not be used to profile the all the other areas where PVC where the collection is taking place. I went to two registration areas yesterday, and for 3 hours, only 2 persons turned up to collect their PVCs. Yes, there were challenges here and there when we initially started, but those challenges have really thinned out. And as you know, from today, the collection moves back to the 774 local government areas of the Federation. We encourage people to go and collect their PVCs. But as you know, there were problems that were not created by the Commission relating to this PVC issue. One, there are some people who carried out transfer in Lagos, and they said they want to vote in Kaduna North of Kaduna State. And they went and were looking for their PVCs in the place where they carried out the transfer, which is Lagos. No, their PVCs are in the place where they say they want to vote, which is Kaduna North local government. That is one. Secondly, there were also people who, rather than carry out transfer, rather than report lost or damaged PVC, went and registered afresh. We regard those people as double or multiple registrants, and we did not print their PVCs. But there were also people who genuinely registered and who do not have any legal challenge, and we did not print their PVCs. We took the numbers of these people and we are printing their PVCs, and we are going to also send text messages to them to come and collect their PVCs. But as of today, I think that we have more or less solved some of those teething problems. In some states, they deployed core members to go and assist. So if those who have not collected their PVCs should approach any of our local government offices from today and collect their PVCs, because we have to stop PVC collection at a certain time so that we can have the number of PVCs collected and the number that remains uncollected for us to begin to plan properly for the election, because we want to make this figure available to Nigerians so that going into the election, Nigerians will know the number of PVCs that have been collected and the number that remains uncollected, which we are going to deposit in the central bank until the elections are over. And so I think that it's important for people to do that. But we assure Nigerians that every legally registered individual who really wants to collect his or her PVC, we have an opportunity of doing that. But collecting PVC is one thing. Showing up on election day is another thing. Okay. We want people to show up because the PVC has power and has potency.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. I want to ask Olisa Agbakoba, what do you think about the scenario where somebody wins 24 states and loses Abuja? Would the election now be held just about Abuja alone, or it will be nationwide to determine that Abuja will now skew the election against the candidate perhaps who won the 24 and the highest votes?
You should be asking Festus that, because he has absolutely no clue. Mine is to say, is Abuja part of the 24 or not? That's all I can say. Since I don't work for INEC, I can't actually answer that question. But your question is a brilliant one, because that is precisely why I wrote the letter. And the other question asked by one of the anchors, Festus didn't answer it, which is, what has been the position before? Because that will help. Have all the presidents from Obasanjo to President Buhari, what did they do? Did they win? Because winning in 36 states, 2/3 is clear, that's not a problem. But the problem is what has been the practice in relation to the FCT.
All right.
So has INEC or the predecessor of INEC, whether it is NEC, going right back to 1999, how have the electoral management body dealt with Abuja? Is it to incorporate it to the 24 states?
We have to wrap up. We have to wrap things up now, but I must thank you, Advocate of Nigeria, Dr. Elizabeth Festus Okoye, for your time on the program. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. This is where we draw the curtains on the program for today. It's been a good run. Remember, the president will be in Lagos, and there is diversion of traffic in some areas along Ikorodu Road, Ekpe, Lekki axis. So be conscious of that. But let's tell you that the views and reactions of all our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Up next is Your View with Mariah and the ladies, and afterwards is This Morning with Yori Folarin. Do stay safe, and bye for now.
Following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV. Happy New Year! ShopX TV is proud to bring you a very special offer. Yes, from now till January 31st, 2023, we